Chapter 4901. Of course, there were many cultivators who had the same idea as Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. Everyone rushed forward without hesitation. Regardless of whether it was the top cultivators cultivated by the major families or the major forces, the difference in strength was not very big. If anyone could obtain an excellent treasure or inheritance, they could completely crush the other cultivators. Therefore, this kind of opportunity was everyone's dream. Every time this happens, I feel that I shouldn't have put all my energy into cultivating my movement technique, Di Xiaofeng lamented as he flew forward. The competition in the upper realm is indeed fierce, Mo Yunjue said quietly. His cold voice still did not have any warmth. Finally, the four of them arrived at a room. When they opened the door and saw what was inside, even with their experience, they couldn't help but cry out in surprise. Oh my God! Di Xiaofeng's face was filled with shock. Am I seeing things? Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two, as well as Bai Shi and Xiao Xuanzi, stared at the scene in a daze. Bodhi fruit, thousand silk leaf, colored glaze water. These are all rare treasures and they're all piled up here. How terrifying is the heritage of the owner of this ruin? Di Xiaofeng did not know how to express his feelings at this moment. He always knew that the owner of this ruin must have accumulated a lot of treasures throughout his life, but the treasures in front of him were too terrifying. This had gone beyond the scope of heroism. This was a treasure trove. If such treasures appeared in a ruin, he would already be shocked. However, this was only a room in this ruin and there were so many things. Then, how many treasures would there be in this ruin? Don't think about it. Quickly put these treasures away. Di Beichen reminded everyone, then said, Xiao Xuanzi, guard outside the room. Alert us if anyone comes near. Understood. Xiao Xuanzi quickly nodded and acted as a sentinel. In the past, this kind of task was usually given to Xiao He and Xiao Bai. However, Xiao He and Xiao Bai had fallen into a deep sleep, so this task naturally fell on Xiao He's shoulders. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't delay any longer. They immediately put away the treasures as fast as they could. At the same time, every room in the ruins was filled with a dazzling array of treasures, causing every cultivator who entered to be pleasantly surprised. Master, someone's coming. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three kept the treasures into their Chenkuan bags, Xiao Xuanzi's voice rang out. Then, Jun Chenbin and the others appeared before everyone's eyes. It's really a small world, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, her eyes falling on Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sudong. The other party obviously didn't expect Di Beichen and the others to be here. A trace of awkwardness flashed across their faces. Although their eyes were filled with desire, they didn't plan to make a move. After all, whether it was Di Xiaofeng or Di Beichen, their strength couldn't be underestimated. Without enough confidence, they couldn't make a move rashly. Most importantly, wasting time here was undoubtedly the most uneconomical thing to do. Let's go. Xiao Sudong glanced coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, then immediately turned and left. In response, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others ignored him and walked out of the room. Chapter 4902. As they advanced, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that the scope of the ruins was not ordinary, and the number of treasures inside was even more shocking. Later on, there were very few conflicts between cultivators, because there were other unexplored rooms waiting for them. This is the first time in my life that I've seen a ruin with so many treasures. If I didn't experience it myself, even if someone told me, I wouldn't believe it. Di Xiaofeng's dark and bright eyes were filled with indescribable astonishment. Even if all of this really happened in front of him, he still couldn't believe it and only felt that it was a dream. Indeed, the number of treasures here is a bit too shocking. Di Beichen's deep eyes flickered with contemplation. It seems like someone piled all the treasures here, but didn't set up any obstacles at all. This is completely different from what we encountered before. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, I don't know why, but although the journey has been very smooth, I vaguely feel that something isn't right. From the lower realm to the upper realm, she had seen a few ruins. The treasures in the lower realm naturally couldn't be compared to the upper realm, but the owner of the ruin should have the same idea. Only cultivators who were recognized could receive his inheritance, but this wasn't reflected at all in this ruin. It seemed like someone had piled up a treasure trove, and was just waiting for everyone to share the spoils. Perhaps it was because it was too easy to get, so it felt strange. I also feel that it's a bit strange, Di Baichen frowned. But I can't figure out what the problem is. Could it be that we're thinking too much? Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but say. The owner of this ruin is of the light attribute. Maybe his personality is just that generous? Hearing this, the four of them looked at each other. Although they also felt that this reason was ridiculous, they couldn't think of any other reason other than this. Hong Zhuang, after we entered the ruin, did the stone react? Mo Yunjue asked. Hearing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang shook her head. No. Originally, the stone had some reaction when they were outside, but after entering the ruin, the stone no longer had any reaction. Regarding this, she also felt that it was very strange. However, this also made her understand that the stone really had nothing to do with this ruin. As for why it attracted her before, she also didn't understand. Perhaps after leaving the ruin, she would have a chance to figure it out. In this ruin, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others obtained some treasures. During this journey, all the cultivators that they met had smiles on their faces, and they couldn't control the joy in their hearts. With these treasures, they would be able to improve their cultivation and surpass other cultivators. How could they not be happy? Finally, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the main hall. When they arrived, they found where many cultivators were gathered. At this moment, the door of the main hall was closed, and the two paths finally converged at the same place. Xiaofeng's, Di Xiaofeng Di Baichen Di Xiaofeng's. And Di Xiaofeng Shaof. Di Xiaofeng nodded. The treasures in this ruin are truly shocking. Just by looking at your expression, I can tell that you've had a great harvest. Chapter 4903. Hearing Lin Qianqian's words, even the cultivators beside Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but nod in agreement. All the waiting was worth it. Just these rewards alone would allow me to leave the immortal cloud secret realm without any regrets. Di Xiaofeng's handsome face was filled with a warm smile. Even if he told his family about this, they would not believe him. Haha, that's right. Lin Taxing was also in a good mood. The main hall is so big. Maybe there are precious treasures inside. When we leave later, let's not split up. Once we leave the relic, the battle will begin. Di Baichen reminded everyone. Now everyone's hearts were filled with joy and they had neglected other things. Hearing this, everyone immediately understood Di Baichen's meaning and nodded in agreement. In the relic, everyone was busy looking for gains and naturally did not have the opportunity to covet other people's treasures. However, once they left the relic, the situation would be different. Everyone had a lot of precious treasures. If there were few people or they were alone, they would likely become the target of others. Fortunately, there were many cultivators from the Di family and the Lin family who had entered the relic. Ordinary people would not dare to target them. Xiaofeng, you're here. A familiar voice rang out. Then, everyone saw Murongjing appear. Murong, you're here too. Di Xiaofeng was overjoyed. Why didn't I see you before? I was lucky. I just arrived when the relic opened. Haha. Murongjing could not hide the joy in his voice and laughed cheerfully. I see. You're really lucky. Di Xiaofeng nodded with a smile. Let's have a good gathering later. Murongjing nodded and looked at the closed door of the main hall. Now everyone was most concerned about the main hall. However, as everyone tried to break the door of the main hall, it did not work. It's the same as the door. There are no mechanisms and we can't open it. A cultivator's voice rang out, full of helplessness and disappointment. Why don't we try to attack the door together and blast it open? Nangong Yuqing's voice resounded, rallying everyone. Nangong Yuqing was the most outstanding cultivator of the Nangong family. His strength was outstanding, so his appeal was naturally strong. Hearing his call, the group of cultivators nodded one after another. After all, everyone wanted to know what kind of treasure was in the main hall. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't pay any attention to it. They were Nangong Yuqing's opponents, so why would they respond to his call? That was naturally impossible. Naturally, Nangong Yuqing also noticed Di Baichen. In fact, with Di Baichen's outstanding appearance and temperament, no matter how many people were around, it was still difficult to ignore his existence. Di Baichen, are you not going to make a move? Nangong Yuqing glanced over. If you don't do anything, Then the treasures in the main hall will have nothing to do with you. As soon as he said that, everyone's eyes fell on Di Beichen. Chapter 4904. Nangong Yuqing, according to what you're saying, as long as no one makes a move, they won't get a share of the treasures in the main hall? Di Beichen sneered. Who do you think you are? Why should you be the one to make the rules? What's more, there are so many cultivators here. I'm afraid it's impossible for all of us to make a move together, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Although the main hall wasn't small, it was impossible for all the cultivators to make a move together. Most importantly, they were inside the ruins. If they made a move together, no one would be able to bear the consequences. Originally, the crowd didn't pay much attention to Nangong Yuqing's words, but after hearing Di Beichen's words, they all frowned. That's right. Making a move isn't a big deal. Isn't it too complicated? Some of the cultivators standing far away from the main hall expressed their dissatisfaction. Nangong Yuqing, why don't you make a move? We'll make a move instead. Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile. Nangong Yuqing, who originally wanted to cause trouble for Di Beichen, saw that the situation was completely different from what he had expected. His expression became gloomy. You're the young master of the Di family. It's normal for you to make a move. I won't make a move. What can you do about it? Di Beichen's lips curved into an evil smile. His calm appearance revealed an evil and domineering aura. His handsome face became even more charming. Just one look from him was enough to captivate a person's soul. Looking at Di Beichen like this, all the women present had an infatuated look in their eyes. Such a handsome man was truly fascinating. You. Nangong Yuqing's face was filled with anger, but facing Di Beichen, he really couldn't do anything. After all, Di Beichen's identity, status, and family background weren't inferior to his. Most importantly, there were many cultivators from the Di family and Lin family here. Once a conflict broke out, the result would be uncertain. Di Beichen just looked at Nangong Yuqing. This guy seemed to have forgotten what happened last time and was looking for trouble again. After seeing this scene, the cultivators from the Nangong family quietly reminded Nangong Yuqing that there was no benefit in making a move against Di Beichen. Nangong Yuqing coldly snorted and gave Di Beichen a fierce look before ignoring him. Once he left the ruins, he would find a way to teach Di Beichen a lesson. Boom! Everyone's attack was aimed at the main hall's door. Is the door. Seeing this, another group of cultivators joined in the attack, but the door still did not respond. And we too. In my opinion, this situation is quite possible. Everyone began to ponder. They really couldn't see through this ruin. Chapter 4905. Within their line of sight, the Great Hall was filled with a shocking number of treasures. It was a dazzling array of treasures that blinded their eyes. If I'm not mistaken, that should be the blood essence of a dragon, right? Heavens, that's the phoenix blood fruit. Isn't that the long-lost Book of Chaos? Cries of surprise rang out. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion. Such a treasure had completely exceeded their expectations. Almost immediately, everyone wanted to charge into the Great Hall. However, they were all blocked by an invisible barrier. However, it was because of this barrier that everyone had time to see the treasures in the Great Hall. The blood essence of a dragon. It said that after using it to refine one's body, one's physical body would become extremely powerful. Its defensive power would be comparable to a demonic beast's. There are very few dragons in the dragon clan. Their blood essence is even more precious. It's almost impossible to obtain it on a normal day. The phoenix blood fruit is a fruit that grows near the phoenix. After consuming it, one's cultivation will increase tremendously. Furthermore, one's strength may even contain a trace of the phoenix's power. I've only heard of such a treasure. I've never thought that I would actually see it. The Book of Chaos. I've heard that it's an extremely high-level treasure. It's already beyond the scope of our knowledge. The Book of Chaos contains the laws of heaven and earth. As long as one can comprehend the Book of Chaos, one's power will increase rapidly. One can even break through the bottleneck and master the power of the laws. Although there's only one page in the Book of Chaos, it's already an unparalleled treasure. How could so many long-lost treasures be gathered here? This is simply too terrifying. Our luck is just too good. We've actually found so many treasures. In an instant, all the cultivators' hearts were captivated by the treasures before them. With these treasures, they would be able to surpass the majority of cultivators. As long as they obtain these treasures, they would become a new force to be reckoned with when they leave the Divine Cloud's secret realm. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were stunned when they saw this scene. The shock on their faces was not much better than the other cultivators. The number of treasures here is simply too shocking. I'm really curious as to who the owner of this ruin is to have so many treasures in his possession. Di Xiaofeng's face was filled with shock. The treasures that he had previously obtained had already filled him with shock. Now, everything that he saw gave him a sense of disbelief. This is simply too shocking. I'm of the major family's knowledge of this ruin's existence. Lin Taxing could not help but sigh. If the major clans knew about the existence of this relic, it was likely that they would not have a chance to train in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. Speaking of which, this Immortal Cloud's secret realm has been opened many times already. But this time we actually encountered it. Our luck is really not bad. Lin Qianqian's face lit up. One's fortune was also related to one's luck. The fact that they were able to come here and obtain these rewards already proved that they were very lucky. The disciples of the Di clan and the Lin clan were equally delighted and eager to give it a try. Of the the world of 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 the divine of the world of the world of the world of the treasures. Of the god art. Of the major of the world. Chapter 4906. Master, the treasures here are just too amazing. White Lion's eyes lit up with excitement. He had actually found treasures that could increase the power of his bloodline in this place. Such treasures were something that he could only come across by chance. He had never expected to find one here. This was a treasure trove. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. Looking at the treasures in front of her, she did not know how to express her feelings. The things here were simply too rich and shocking, giving her a feeling of disbelief. Beichen, I don't know why, but after coming here, my intuition has become stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Beichen. Even though she was drooling over these treasures, there were simply too many of them. So many that she felt that they were all fake. Hongzhuang, you're thinking too much. These are all real. Lin Qianqian smiled when she heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Di Beichen's eyes darkened. My wife, do you suspect that this is an illusion? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. Her deep eyes rippled with a thoughtful light. That might be the case. Don't you think that the treasures here are simply too unbelievable? There are indeed too many of them. Di Beichen replied in a low voice. However, based on the current situation, I feel that these treasures are all real. The treasures that we've just obtained are real? This is what I've never understood. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She had never understood this point, but the feeling in her heart was very obvious. She could vaguely sense that something was amiss. However, she could not pinpoint the source of the problem. Bailey Hongzhuang remained silent as she thought of this. Before she could figure out the source of the problem, her words would not be convincing. My wife, let's take a look first. Di Beichen did not doubt Bailey Hongzhuang's words. They should observe carefully before making a decision. Yes. Under the expectant gazes of the crowd, the restriction grew fainter and fainter. Obviously, it wouldn't be long before the restriction completely dissipated. As the restriction grew fainter and fainter, the covetous look in everyone's eyes grew even more intense. All of their attention was focused on the treasure. In their minds, they had already begun to imagine the days after they obtained the treasures. At that time, they would definitely show off their might. It's fading, it's fading. The restriction is about to open. Get ready. Everyone was accumulating power, ready to fight for the treasures. Crack. As the restriction completely dissipated, all the cultivators rushed in at once. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not slow either. They rushed into the hall one after another. However, after entering the main hall, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that there was an invisible force affecting her. At the same time, a cold energy came from the stone, and her mind, which was gradually becoming crazy, was restored to its sobriety. After discovering this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with horror. She finally understood where the problem was, that she had always felt something was amiss. So it was here. Di Beichen had already snatched the Book of Chaos. His deep and enchanting eyes were filled with passion, and he could not hide the excitement on his face. So this is the Book of Chaos. Chapter 4907. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't figure out what the problem was. Looking at the treasure in front of her, she held it in her hand. Immediately after, she found that there was an uncontrollable excitement spreading from her mind. She couldn't contain this excitement at all. She kept thinking that as long as she could get this treasure, she would definitely have greater achievements in the future. It was because of this thought that a trace of madness flashed in her eyes. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang fell into madness, the power from the stone restored a trace of clarity in her eyes. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately put the stone down. Her exquisite face was filled with horror. She looked at the treasure on the table in shock. She never thought that this treasure would have such a terrifying, bewitching power. When she turned her eyes again, she found that the cultivators around her had an abnormal blush on their faces. Their eyes were filled with madness, and they were no longer as calm as before. After discovering this, Bailey Hongzhuang quickly pulled Di Beichen back. "Beichen, put this thing down." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen nervously. She was really worried that Di Beichen would be bewitched by this power. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen was also slightly stunned. "Why? It's too late to explain now. If you believe me, put this thing down quickly," Bailey Hongzhuang quickly said. Even though Di Beichen's heart was full of confusion, after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, he still chose to believe her. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang was the person he loved the most. She definitely wouldn't lie to him. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Xiaofeng and the others. "Big brother, put it down quickly." Di Xiaofeng had just grabbed a treasure when he suddenly heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words. He couldn't help but ask, "It wasn't easy to get this treasure. How can I put it down? Once this thing is brought back, its value will be astonishing." "Big brother, just believe in Hongzhuang." He didn't know why Bailey Hongzhuang did this, but he also noticed the anxiety on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Thinking about it, there must be very serious consequences for Bailey Hongzhuang to have such a reaction. "Hongzhuang, are you crazy? You're giving up on such a treasure?" Lin Qianqian was puzzled. Anyone would dream of having such a treasure. Most importantly, if they gave up on this treasure and the cultivators of other clans obtained it, then they would lose to the cultivators of other clans. This was something she absolutely did not want. "There's something wrong with these treasures. Put them down," Bailey Hongzhuang hurriedly said, and turned to look at Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue. "Tell our people to leave the main hall quickly. There's something strange here." Seeing this, Di Beichen pulled Di Xiaofeng and the others out of the main hall without hesitation. Di Xiaofeng and the others were unwilling. They only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's decision was too strange. "Beichen, if you want to go out, then go out." "We won't go out." Lin Taxing couldn't help but say. These precious treasures were right in front of him. He simply couldn't give them up. Chapter 4908. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the surrounding cultivators all looked at her with ridicule. "Bailey Hongzhuang, you wouldn't say such words just because you want to keep it for yourself, right?" Nangong Yuqing sneered. "Do you think anyone will believe you at a time like this? It's up to you to believe me or not." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold. She really didn't want to save Nangong Yuqing. However, there were so many cultivators present and she didn't want them all to lose their lives here. "Bailey Hongzhuang, if you want to leave, then leave. We won't be fooled by your tricks." Xiao Sudong also sneered. Di Xiaofeng and the others still didn't want to leave after seeing this scene. However, they thought that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't lie to them at this time, and decided to trust Bailey Hongzhuang. In the next moment, Di Xiaofeng quickly walked to Murongjing's side. "Murongjing, put down the things and leave with me." Xiaofeng, are you crazy? There are so many treasures here. Wouldn't it be a loss if we just leave like this? Murongjing rolled his eyes. This was a good opportunity to improve himself. Whoever gave it up would be a fool. Although I don't know what's going on, the situation is urgent. Trust me this time. We've been brothers for so many years, I won't lie to you. Di Xiaofeng said. Di Xiaofeng didn't care whether Murongjing agreed or not and pulled him out of the main hall. Xiaofeng, stop messing around. Murongjing's face was filled with anger. If you continue like this, I'll make a move. Even if you do, I'll pull you out. Di Xiaofeng's attitude was very firm. He and Murongjing were best friends. If there was really something strange here, then he couldn't let anything happen to Murongjing. Bailey Hongzhuang's people immediately walked out of the main hall. In the process, they dragged the cultivators from the Di family and the Lin family out. They did not give the other party any chance at all. Even if the family members were full of dissatisfaction, Di Beichen and Lin Taxing still asked everyone to leave. Everyone had no choice but to follow him and leave. Bailey Hongzhuang is really crazy. How can she ask us to leave when we have such a great opportunity? What are we going to do about this loss? Let's have a good talk. If we leave just like this, we will definitely not be able to compare to the cultivators of the other clans. That's right, what should we do? The group of disciples were filled with depression. They even wanted to directly refute Bailey Hongzhuang. However, Di Beichen was the young master of the Di family, and Bailey Hongzhuang was the young master's wife. It was obviously inappropriate for them to refute like this. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. It was not until they had left the main hall that Bailey Hongzhuang felt relieved. Of course, Bailey Hongzhuang's group had caused quite a stir, and had attracted the attention of some cultivators. Everyone had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had deliberately said this to distract everyone so that they could fight for the treasures. However, when they noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang's group had really turned around and left without taking anything, their eyes filled with confusion. What's going on with them? Could Bailey Hongzhuang be telling the truth? Chapter 4909. Only after they left the main hall did Bailey Hongzhuang let out a sigh of relief. Hongzhuang, tell me what's going on? Di Xiaofeng immediately asked. Not to mention Murongjing, who was still glaring at him furiously. Even he himself wanted to know what was going on. Lin Qianqian and the others were also looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with burning gazes, anger faintly visible in their eyes. Obviously, if Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't give them a reasonable explanation, they would really get angry. Wife, don't be anxious. Tell me in detail. Di Beichun stood beside Bailey Hongzhuang. His gaze swept past everyone, blocking the furious gazes of the others. Noticing Di Beichun's expression, everyone restrained their anger. Look carefully at the expressions of those cultivators in the main hall. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reminded everyone to observe. What expressions can they have? Aren't they excited? Lin Qianqian said without hesitation. Anyone who sees so many treasures will inevitably be excited. However, when everyone carefully observed the expressions of the cultivators in the main hall, they noticed something different. I noticed that their expressions seemed somewhat strange. Di Xiaofeng suddenly said doubtfully. Before Bailey Hongzhuang reminded him, he didn't notice it. Now that he looked carefully, he noticed that everyone's faces were filled with excitement. It was normal for him to be excited, but there was something strange about this excitement. Most importantly, everyone's eyes were dyed with a trace of blood red, filled with madness. Obviously, something was wrong with this point. After Di Xiaofeng noticed it, the other cultivators naturally noticed it as well. Immediately, a strange light appeared in their eyes. At this moment, another figure appeared beside Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang saw that this person was actually Chun Feng. Chun Feng? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. So far, other than the cultivators from the Di family and the Lin family, no one else had left the main hall. Obviously, no one would believe what he said at this time. Unexpectedly, Chun Feng had also come out. Moreover, he did not have any treasures with him. This caused her to be somewhat flabbergasted. Chun Feng glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and cupped his hands. Thank you for your reminder. I owe you one. Upon hearing this, Lin Qianqian and the others' expressions changed. Chen Feng was the strongest among all the cultivators here. Normally, he was also the representative of all the cultivators here. Nobody could overlook his existence. Since he had come out, it proved that there was something strange about the main palace. After the Great Devil Sex cultivators saw Chen Feng leave, many of them started to change their minds. After hesitating for a while, he decided to put down the treasures and leave. The stronger one was, the more they desired these treasures. Since even Chen Feng was willing to give up, it was only natural that they would do the same. Wife, how did you find out that there was a problem here? Di Beichen's deep black eyes were filled with doubt and astonishment. This moment he was also somewhat afraid. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang's reminder, he would probably be the same as the other cultivators in the main hall. It's all thanks to the stone in my hand, Bailey Hongzhuang explained. Chapter 49:10. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen and the others finally understood. It turns out that this stone has such an effect. If it weren't for this stone, I'm afraid we would all be in trouble. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with amazement before he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang apologetically. Sister-in-law, I'm really sorry for my attitude just now. Lin Qianqian and the others were also apologetic. When they heard that Bailey Hongzhuang had asked them to leave, they were actually very dissatisfied. Because there were so many treasures, it was really too difficult to give up just like that. Now that they understood that everything Bailey Hongzhuang did before was to save them, their hearts were naturally filled with regret. Hongzhuang, it was all our fault before. I'm really sorry, Lin Qianqian hurriedly said. Looking at everyone's apologetic faces, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and waved her hand. It's okay, you don't have to apologize. The influence of this main hall is too great. Everyone can't resist the temptation of the treasures. If it weren't for the stone's help, I wouldn't have reacted better than everyone else. As she spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang once again looked at the treasures in the ruins. She really didn't expect that this seemingly risk-free ruin would actually have so many problems. This kind of danger was actually 100 times more dangerous than the ruins they had encountered before. Because it could make everyone fall into a state of madness. Isn't the owner of this ruin a light attribute cultivator? Why is everything here so strange? Lin Taxing was puzzled. Generally speaking, light meant justice. As long as it was a light attribute cultivator, they shouldn't do such a sinister thing. However, they encountered it here. Perhaps all of this is deliberately disguised. It is precisely because this attribute will make us unconsciously lower our defense that it is easier to fall into a trap. Bang bang bang. A battle broke out in the main hall. Many cultivators had already started fighting over the treasures. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stood outside the main hall and looked at each other. This situation was really too strange. Mo Yunjue turned to look at Chen Feng and suddenly asked, Chen Feng, how did you know that something was wrong here? Chen Feng looked up at Mo Yunjue and said, I didn't think so at first, but everything before was too smooth, so I always felt strange in my heart. Since entering the main hall, I felt that there was an energy inadvertently affecting my mind. The cultivation method itself has the ability to sober me up. Ordinary bewitchment can't confuse me, but the power of bewitchment here is really strong. Fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice helped me and made me sober up. So that's the case. Everyone immediately understood and their hearts were filled rejoiced. If Bailey Hongzhuang didn't have this stone, they might have all died here. An idea suddenly popped into my head. Emperor Xiaofeng suddenly said, this ruin has always been releasing light. Maybe it's to attract cultivators and make them all stay here. As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned for a moment. Then they all felt their hair stand on end. Because what Di Xiaofeng said was very likely true. If that's really the case, then it's really too terrifying. Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black bright eyes bloomed with a dim light. This kind of method was simply like that of a demon. Chapter 49:11. Everyone connected everything that had happened before and felt that this dazzling, holy and bright ruin was exceptionally strange. I wonder what is the purpose of this main hall to attract everyone. Mo Yunjua looked at the people fighting in the main hall with a calm gaze. Although he could see some abnormal blushes on the faces of these cultivators, at least there was no danger so far. Although Chun Feng's personality was cold and arrogant, as the eldest senior brother of the Great Devil sect, he still ordered his disciples to leave the main hall. Although the Great Devil sect's cultivators were unwilling, most of them still chose to believe in Chan Feng, while some who had been bewitched still stayed inside, unwilling to come out. Regarding this, Chun Feng did not say anything more. As the eldest senior brother, he had already done his best. Some people had obviously been bewitched, so even if he said anything more, it would be useless. Moreover, this main hall was so strange. If he went in again, he could not guarantee that he would not be able to come out. Why don't we leave first? This place is too strange. Only by leaving here will we feel safe, Di Xiaofeng suggested. Previously, he felt that this was a paradise for cultivators, but now that he realized the problem, he felt that this was a hell that ate people without spitting out their bones. If they continued to stay, no one knew what would happen. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded slightly. They were indeed unwilling to stay here. Then let's go. Lin Qianqian and the others also took a step forward. Now this ruin was a trap in their eyes. No one knew if they would lose their lives if they continued to stay here. They did not care about others, the only thing they could care about was their own brothers and sisters. Good. Everyone agreed. Now they no longer had the enthusiasm for the treasure. This gloomy and terrifying feeling had already extinguished their previous enthusiasm. After Xiao Sudong obtained the treasure, his gaze fell on Di Beichen and the others. When he saw that Di Beichen and the others had actually chosen to leave, he felt somewhat strange. Most importantly, the people of the Great Devil sect had also chosen to leave together. This was strange. No one would not be moved by such a treasure, yet they chose to give it up. Could it be that there was something wrong with this place? Thinking of this, Xiao Sudong also started to doubt. At this moment a loud laugh rang out. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others heard this sound, they could not help but stop in their tracks. When they turned their heads, they discovered that the body of the cultivator holding the most treasures was gradually festering. It was a terrifying sight. However, there was still an excited smile on his face, which looked very strange in such a situation. Ah! Lin Qianqian couldn't help but exclaim. Such a situation was really creepy. This person is really crazy. Let's go. Lin Qianqian could not help but wrap her arms around her chest. It was warm, but she felt an unprecedented chill. After the first cultivator had such a situation, the other cultivators also began to experience the same thing. After seeing this situation, Xiao Sudong didn't dare to hold the treasure anymore. He immediately threw it away and rushed out. His face was completely pale, and there were no other thoughts in his mind. The only thought in his mind was to leave this place. Chapter 49:12. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Xiao Sudong shouted at Jun Chunbin, but his footsteps never stopped. His gaze was fixed on Di Beichen and the rest. Although both sides were enemies, he only wanted to follow Di Beichen and the rest. Only then would he feel at ease. Jun Chunbin was also in a state of confusion. When he suddenly heard Xiao Sudong shout, he could not help but be stunned. He regained some of his senses and did not dare to stay any longer. He hurriedly left the treasures behind and ran out. Some of the cultivators who were fighting over the treasures immediately understood the problem when they saw this situation. They all ran out of the main hall as if they were running for their lives. They no longer had the desire to fight for the treasures. However, some of the cultivators who had held the treasures for a longer time had completely lost their minds. Even though their teammates shouted with all their might, it was still useless. In a short period of time, many of the cultivators had already rotted and melted into ghastly white bones. The scene was horrifying and bloody, sending chills down one's spine. After the other cultivators rushed out, they quickly approached Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. Until now, they still did not understand the situation. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was the first cultivator to discover the problem. Everyone had already treated her as a life-saving straw. Miss Bailey, what's going on? One of the cultivators could not help but ask. He did not know Bailey Hongzhuang, but they were not enemies with the D family. Hence he asked. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I'm not sure what's going on here. The only thing I can be sure of is that there's something strange about these ruins. We can't take the treasures in the main hall. At this moment Xiao Sudong and the rest were all pale. The white floor of the main hall had been stained red with blood. It was extremely horrifying. Heavens, I never thought that this place would be so terrifying. Previously I thought that this was heaven. In the blink of an eye, it has become hell. Miss Bailey, you're really amazing. You actually discovered the problem here. That's right. If it wasn't for Miss Bailey's reminder, I'm afraid that our situation would be even worse. We might have already lost our lives here. Everyone's eyes were filled with sincerity. Bailey Hongzhuang's previous shout had indeed had a certain effect on them. If it weren't for the fact that the cultivators of the D family, Lin family, and the Great Devil sect had chosen to leave, they would have already focused all their attention on the treasure. Even if they discovered that there was a problem later on, they probably wouldn't have been able to come out. Most of the cultivators who came out were hesitant before, which was why they did not completely fall into the trap. When the cultivators of the D family saw that their young madam was being praised so highly, they were all overjoyed. Young madam is really amazing. She can still remain so calm at a time like this. That's right, I admire young madam more and more now. With young master and young madam, I suddenly feel that there's something to look forward to. Di Xiaofeng and the others also smiled. This was probably the only thing they could be happy about right now. It's just that we discovered it earlier. Is there a need to be so exaggerated? Xiao Sudong curled his lips. Seeing that all the limelight had been stolen by Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt a burst of displeasure in his heart. Chapter 49:13. Xiao Sudong only muttered a few words, but he did not expect Lin Chanqian to hear it. Being suddenly brought up by Lin Chanqian, his face was a little awkward. Xiao Sudong, if I remember correctly, we are enemies now. Since you have come out of the main palace, you should go your own way. Don't be with us, it will be hard on you. Di Xiaofeng's lips curled into a mocking smile, his face full of displeasure. If it were not for the fact that he had a good relationship with the Xiao family, he would not have bothered to talk nonsense. However, the relationship between the two parties would only get worse in the future. I'm just saying what I think. What's more, there are only two paths here. I'm willing to take this one. What can you do about it? Xiao Sudong forced himself to be tough, but anyone could hear the guilt in his words. They suddenly felt that this guy was really thick-skinned. Everyone shook their heads. Not only was he thick-skinned, but he was also saying bad things about others. He seemed to be particularly petty. Then you take this path, we'll take another one. Di Beichen said lightly. Xiao Sudong's expression changed, and he looked at Di Beichen hatefully. This guy did not give him any leeway. Then I'll change too. Xiao Sudong did not care about his face at this moment. After all, nothing was more important than his life. No matter what, he had to follow the group closely. Otherwise, this ruin was so strange that no one knew what would happen next. If he was separated from Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, he really did not know if he could walk out. Everyone rolled their eyes and did not want to say anything. Di Beichen and the others were too lazy to care. At this time, they were not in the mood to argue with Xiao Sudong. After all, it was best to leave this ruin as soon as possible. In the next moment, everyone chose a path and walked out. However, after they set off, they found that there were layers of fog in front of them. They could only see within a radius of 10 meters, and could not see anything further. How could this be? Lin Chanqian was shocked. She did not expect such a sudden change. It seems that this remnant is truly strange. I'm afraid that it's trying to trap all of us here. Di Beichen's deep eyes turned serious. He looked around cautiously. Obviously, this ruin did not want any of them to leave. Heavens, I thought my luck was too good. I didn't expect this place to be such a terrifying place. Then what should we do? Do you think you can make it out alive? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was equally solemn. We can only take it one step at a time. Everyone, try not to split up and think of a way to leave this place together. Hearing that, everyone nodded. At that moment, everyone's hearts were united. They all had the same thought, and they only wanted to leave this place alive. Wife, does that stone have any guidance? Di Beichen asked. No. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Chapter 49:14. As everyone continued to move forward, no one could tell which path they were walking on. That was because no one could see clearly beyond 10 meters. However, after everyone had walked for some distance, a cry of surprise was suddenly heard. What happened? Di Xiaofeng asked as he looked at the cultivators who were crying out in surprise. The cultivator's face was pale without a trace of blood. He trembled as he said, "Didn't you notice that the number of people seems to have decreased?" Following this cultivator's words, everyone present was stunned. After carefully sizing up the group, they realized that there were indeed fewer people than before. How could this be? Everyone was dumbfounded. They had been walking together all along, but no one noticed when the cultivators disappeared. Why did they disappear for no reason? What should we do? An indescribable panic exploded in everyone's hearts. Such a strange situation made everyone's hair stand on end. As cultivators, everyone was already used to seeing life and death. If they died for no reason, at least they wouldn't be in such a state. However, it was truly frightening for him to disappear without a trace. It was as if there was an invisible hand surrounding them, and no one knew when it would reach out to them. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. This situation was completely out of their expectations. Along the way, they didn't notice that there were cultivators disappearing behind them at all. Most importantly, it disappeared without a sound. There wasn't even the slightest cry of pain. That was the biggest problem. No matter what, they couldn't understand why this happened. Just then, Di Beichen suddenly said, "Let's put down all the treasures we obtained here." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. Di Beichen continued, "There's obviously something wrong with the things in this ruin. There's something wrong with the treasures in the main hall, and there's probably something wrong with the treasures we obtained. The disappearance of these people might be related to these treasures. For safety's sake, let's do this." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded after hearing Di Beichen's words. That's right, this is the safest. She felt that everyone was in such a predicament because of greed. After what happened in the main hall, she understood this point. Beichen, do you think that there are so many treasures in this hall that were left behind by cultivators in the past? Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone's eyes were filled with shock. Previously, no one understood why there were so many treasures here. Moreover, these treasures were all real. They knew very well that the things here were not illusions, and they weren't in an illusion. It was impossible for so many treasures to be gathered in one place. Even if the owner of this ruin was incredible, it was still impossible to have so many treasures. Chapter 49:15. Now that they were faced with these treasures again, they no longer coveted them. Instead, they threw them away like hot potatoes. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen did so, Di Xiaofeng and the rest no longer hesitated. Although the treasures were good, they still needed to be alive to enjoy them. The treasures here were so terrifying that they did not want them anymore. Chun Feng did not hesitate either. He immediately took out the treasures and placed them on the ground. In an instant, everyone began to take out their items. The treasures that everyone usually fought over were now abandoned by everyone. Let's continue. After making the decision, everyone continued moving forward. However, along the way, cultivators were still disappearing one after another. Everyone was even more nervous. However, at this moment, no one could guarantee their safety. Not only that, when they entered, no one felt that this path was very long. However, now that they were about to leave, they felt that this path was incomparably long. They had obviously walked for a long time, yet they still could not see the exit. Chun Feng's voice was solemn and deep as he reminded everyone, "This fog seems to have the ability to devour elemental energy." Along the way, he did not use any elemental energy, yet he found that the elemental energy in his body was gradually dissipating. Now, less than half of the elemental energy in his body was left. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest did not look too good when they heard this. This was because they also felt that the elemental energy in their body was dissipating. However, no one said it out loud. This would only increase the panic in everyone's heart. Chen Feng continued, I suggest that we stop and rest after walking for a while. If all our elemental energy is exhausted, it won't be good for us to stay here. No one objected to Chen Feng's suggestion. As the strongest existence among the cultivators, Chen Feng had a lot of authority. Most importantly, everyone's minds were already in a mess due to this bizarre situation. Naturally, they would listen to whoever had the idea. Chen Feng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. This ruin is very bizarre. Moreover, this path is extending endlessly. We don't know if we have returned to the starting point. It will be better to rest for a while and maintain our peak condition. All right. Di Beichen nodded. I have the same idea. For a moment, everyone gathered together and started recovering their essence energy. Chen Feng's gaze landed on the group of cultivators. Now everyone should remember the people around you. This way, the moment someone disappears, you will be able to discover it. One more thing. Is there anyone who is still holding on to the treasures that they haven't thrown away? As soon as he said that, all the cultivators present shook their heads. However, among the crowd, Bailey Hongzhuang still noticed a few cultivators who remained silent. Naturally, Chen Feng noticed this as well. He said, It is your business if you decide to leave the treasure behind. However, if any danger arises, you will have to bear the consequences. Since you don't want to give up the treasure, then you should sit a little further away from us. Don't bring danger to us. As soon as he said that, the cultivators who were unwilling to give up their treasures looked indignant. Chen Feng, what makes you say that? Exactly. Why can't we be together? Don't think that just because you are a member of the Great Devil's sect, we are not afraid of you. Facing their dissatisfied voices, Chen Feng's expression was exceptionally cold. Since you guys refuse to cooperate, this is how it should be. Chapter 49:16. After hearing Chen Feng's decision, the other cultivators agreed with him. That's right. Since you guys want to keep the treasures, you guys should bear the risk. What if you implicate us? Now that you guys are about to lose your lives, you guys are still unwilling to part with the treasures. I really admire you guys. If you want the treasure, then stay away from us. Otherwise, throw it away. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes and met Yihang's calm and wise eyes. She immediately understood that Chen Feng wanted to use these people to test if the reason why some people went missing was because they were unwilling to part with the treasures. This decision meant that they had to give up on the lives of these people. This might be somewhat cruel, but it was also the best method at a time like this. If they couldn't find the reason, even though there were still a lot of people here, by the time they reached the entrance, there wouldn't be many people left. Jun Chenbin was also someone who was unwilling to part with the treasures. He was ranked third in his family. He had always been suppressed by Jun Lingxuan and Jun Zitao. Naturally, his cultivation resources couldn't be compared to those two. The Immortal Cloud's secret realm was an extremely good opportunity for him. If he could obtain these treasures, his cultivation would definitely increase greatly. It was naturally impossible to compare with Jun Lingxuan. However, there was still hope for him to surpass Jun Zitao. He wasn't willing to give up this great opportunity just like that. Jun Chenbin, are you crazy? Xiao Sudong couldn't help but shout when he saw Jun Chenbin still being so persistent. You really want the treasures more than your life. Xiao Sudong, from the beginning to the end, all of this was guessed by Di Beichen and the others. Who can be sure that all of this is true? Perhaps all of this has nothing to do with the treasures. Don't you think it's a pity to give up just like that? Jun Chenbin's expression was persistent. Obviously, he had already made up his mind. I know it's indeed a pity. However, nothing is more important than our lives. A trace of hesitation flashed across Xiao Sudong's face. However, it turned into determination in the end. He was very clear that if he left the group now, it was very likely that he would lose his life here. Originally, he wasn't very familiar with Jun Chenbin. However, after coming to the ruins, he had always been with Jun Chenbin. Naturally, he didn't want Jun Chenbin to lose his life here. It's only 5 meters. I don't believe that something will happen. Jun Shenbin looked at Chen Feng coldly before saying to Xiao Sudong, "Don't worry. I'll be fine." Looking at Jun Shenbin's determined look, Xiao Sudong felt a little helpless. However, since Jun Shenbin had already made his decision, it was useless no matter what he said, so he simply stopped trying to persuade him. After hearing what Jun Shenbin said, the other cultivators had no choice but to agree. Just like that, the group was divided into 2 groups. Bailey Hongzhuang also found that the energy in her body was dissipating very quickly. However, the ruins were filled with the light attribute, so the recovery speed here was also very fast. Closing her eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang began to circulate the demon summoning scripture, absorbing the essence energy in the air to replenish her body. This ruin was full of oddities. This kind of cloud and mist lingered around it, and the feeling of being unable to see clearly was really uncomfortable. Unfortunately, she was unable to decipher it at the moment. Her greatest reliance was this stone. She could only hope that it would help her leave this place. Chapter 49:17. Endless Treasures. No matter what you like, it will belong to you. Come to me. As long as you have these treasures, your future will be bright. Believe me, there will be everything you need here. A summoning voice seemed to come from the bottom of Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. Endless treasures appeared in front of her, dazzling with golden light. The greed and desire of a person would spread to the maximum. All of the greed would explode under this summoning. It was as if as long as she took this step, she would be able to obtain everything she wanted. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips unconsciously overflowed with a trace of a smile. Everything that she dreamed of getting seemed to be within her reach. However, just as she was about to take a step, she felt that something was wrong. It was because of this uncertainty that she did not take the first step. It was this short moment of hesitation that caused a cooling power to surge into her mind, causing her confused eyes to shine again. After coming to her senses, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with horror. This kind of summoning power was really too terrifying. Anyone who was not firm in their heart would definitely be attracted by this summoning. Once they were attracted, the consequences would naturally be extremely terrifying. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes widened. Her beautiful face was filled with indescribable astonishment and horror. This place was too terrifying. Only then did she realize that many of the cultivators around her were at a loss. Some of them were even smiling strangely with excitement. She immediately looked at Di Beichen, only to find that Di Beichen was frowning. There was a bloodstain on his palm. It was obvious that he was struggling with all his might. "Beichen! Beichen!" Bailey Hongzhuang called out and shook Di Beichen's shoulder. After a moment, Di Beichen opened his eyes and woke up from his nightmare. "Wife!" Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him, his deep and charming eyes rippling with shock and terror. "Beichen, it's great that you're awake." Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief. This place is too scary. Everyone seems to be immersed in the excitement. Di Beichen nodded slightly. The power of bewitchment is too strong. Normal people would not be able to resist it. "What happened to your hand?" Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes were filled with concern. Although they were almost bewitched before, as long as they were not bewitched and left, external forces would not harm them. "I always felt that this place was very strange, so I cut my hand before I started cultivating. The pain would make me more awake. Fortunately, I did so. I'm afraid that my reaction right now would be the same as most people's." Di Beichen furrowed his beautiful eyebrows, and his beautiful face was full of dignified worry. This was the first time he had encountered such a method. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang understood. She sighed inwardly. Fortunately, Beichen had foresight. At the same time, they noticed that Chen Feng, Di Xiaofeng, Mo Yunjue, Lin Taxing, Nangong Yuqing, and the others were still awake. However, everyone's faces were very pale. It was not because of their injuries, but because this scene made them feel very scared. "What the hell is this place? Damn it!" Nangong Yuqing cursed. His originally unsightly face looked even uglier under his anger. Chapter 49:18. A trace of understanding appeared on Di Xiaofeng's handsome face. Previously, no one could figure out how those cultivators disappeared without a trace. However, after the situation just now, he understood. These cultivators were willingly lured away. In addition, there was fog all around, so no one noticed them at all. As soon as he said this, everyone nodded. This was indeed the most likely possibility. Don't worry about that for now. The most important thing is to wake everyone up. Di Beichen's expression was extremely solemn. There seemed to be no external danger here, but the most terrifying thing was the attack on one's soul. Once one's soul fell, everything would be useless. The next moment, everyone no longer hesitated and began to wake up the people around them. There was not much time left for them. According to the situation in the main hall, if they were bewitched too deeply, they would not be able to wake them up even if they wanted to. Qianqian, wake up! Lin Taxing hurriedly shook Lin Qianqian. Lin Qianqian was still in a state of excitement, and the smile on her face had yet to fade. Qianqian, wake up! I am Taxing. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not idle either. They were all desperately trying to wake everyone up. At this moment, everyone could only find a way to leave this terrifying place if they were united. The bewitched cultivators woke up under the shaking of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. When they understood what had happened, they could not help but feel a lingering fear. If someone had not woken them up, what would have happened to them now? After Xiao Sudong woke up, he hurriedly looked at the cultivators 5 meters away. At this moment, the figures of those cultivators were nowhere to be seen. They are all gone. Xiao Sudong cried out in alarm. At this moment, Jun Shenbin's figure appeared beside the team. His face was completely filled with an expression as if he had seen a ghost. We can't take those treasures. Seeing that Jun Shenbin had not disappeared, everyone was somewhat astonished. According to their judgment, Jun Shenbin should not be alive. Jun Shenbin, what happened earlier? What did you see? Chen Feng asked. Even though Jun Shenbin was very dissatisfied with Chen Feng, he couldn't care less at this moment. He only said in a panic, "Ghost, there must be a ghost here." Don't panic. Tell us in detail what you saw. Xiao Sudong walked to Jun Shenbin's side and pulled his arm. Jun Shenbin nodded. After calming down a little, he said. They all had strange smiles on their faces and then walked in the opposite direction. No matter how I called out to them, they didn't respond at all. It was as if they were immersed in their own world and couldn't hear me at all. Jun Chunbin panted heavily, as if he still had lingering fears about what had happened before. Furthermore, they are all holding treasures in their hands. Their eyes are bloodshot as they stare at the treasures. I saw that the treasure was emitting a demonic blood-red light. Didn't you keep some treasures as well? Why is he fine? Nangong Yuqing looked at Jun Chunbin doubtfully. Since the others had disappeared, it was strange that Jun Chunbin was still alive. I didn't cultivate it before, Jun Chunbin said slowly, feeling a lingering fear. Chapter 49:19. That was because he had chosen to place the treasure not far away from him. Moreover, he did not start cultivating immediately. Instead, he was still unconvinced by Chun Feng's words. Hence he had been waiting. He was hoping to find evidence to prove that all this had nothing to do with the treasure. As long as he could find evidence, he would be able to reason with Chun Feng and vent his anger. However, he had never expected to see such a scene. After this scene, he immediately understood that Di Beichen's previous judgment was correct. Immediately, he did not dare to delay any longer. He left the treasure and approached Di Beichen's group. After hearing everything Jun Chunbin said, everyone looked at each other in dismay, feeling a chill run down their spines. In that case, regardless of whether the treasure here is useful or not, as long as we cultivate, there is a high possibility that we will be bewitched. This ruin is deliberately using some methods to exhaust the elemental energy in our bodies, forcing us to sit down and cultivate to recover. This method is used to bewitch our minds. What should we do? If we don't cultivate like this, we won't be able to resist if we encounter danger. Panic and nervousness appeared on everyone's faces. An indescribable sense of panic started spreading in their hearts. All these situations made them feel extremely powerless. For a moment, everyone's gaze shifted to Debachen's group. These people were undoubtedly their life-saving straw. That was because they had all been bewitched. Yet Debachen's group was still able to maintain their consciousness. As long as the other party was willing to wake them up, they would still have hope of surviving. Everyone, don't panic. Although this place is bizarre, as long as we can resist this bewitching power, there won't be any other dangers. As long as we work together, I believe we will definitely be able to walk out of this ruin. Debachen's gentle and magnetic voice sounded. Currently, the most taboo thing was to panic. The moment they panicked, their subsequent actions would only make more mistakes. Debachen is right. Now that we have a clear understanding of the situation, as long as no other tricks are used, we will be able to resist, Chunfeng said. Debachen, Chunfeng, we will follow you guys. We will do whatever you say. No matter what, we must find a way to leave this place. After the first cultivator expressed his stance, the rest of the cultivators followed suit. That's right, we believe you. I have to leave. I don't want to die here. After everyone recovered their origin energy, they once again began to walk out. While they were walking, the atmosphere of the entire group was very stifling. Not for any other reason but because in this short period of time, the number of people in the group had shrunk by quite a bit. No one knew how many people would be able to leave the ruins alive. Most importantly, many of the cultivators' relatives had perished in the ruins. It would be strange if they were in a good mood. Fortunately, the cultivators of the D family and the Lin family were still alive. Everyone had their own selfish motives. Even though everyone had tried their best to wake everyone up, the first people they woke up were their own teammates. Although the D family and the Lin family had more practitioners than the other families, the number of people who were awake was also more than the other families. That was why they were able to wake up before they were completely possessed. Could it be that this relic wants to keep all of us here? What should we do? I don't want to die here. Under this extreme fear, many cultivators began to lose control of their emotions and became hysterical. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, their moods extremely complicated. I'm afraid we'll have to put in some effort to get out. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were as calm as an ancient well. Her voice was calm, and she didn't lose control of her emotions like many people. Chapter 49:21. The more dangerous it was, the calmer they had to be. Only in this way could they think of a way out in the midst of a crisis. Debachen nodded. Since we were able to enter, we will definitely be able to find a way out. However, we have to think carefully about how we can get out. Mo Yunjue and the rest fell into deep thought as they tried to think of a way out. At the same time, the other cultivators had already begun trying to use their strength to break through this layer of restriction. This time, everyone used all their strength. The desire to live swelled in their hearts. No one was willing to stay here any longer. Bailey Hongzhuang only glanced at them and did not pay too much attention to it. She understood that this method would not work at all. Just like how they could not enter with brute force earlier, they could not leave with brute force now. Previously, when we entered, we waited. However, if we leave now, it's obviously useless to wait. Bailey Hongzhuang tapped her chin with her slender fingers. Her almond-shaped eyes flashed with a puzzled light. Master, is the stone still reacting? Baisher could not help but ask. As a contracted beast, it was not as affected as a human. Even though it had coveted it previously, it had quickly calmed down. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Apart from keeping me awake when I was bewitched, the stone did not have any other reaction. Based on the current situation, the most obvious manifestation of this ruin is greed. Debachen's thoughtful voice slowly rang out. As long as we don't covet anything here, it won't pose any danger to us. Perhaps we need to get rid of this before we can leave. I think so too. Mo Yunjue nodded. We need to get rid of the greed in our hearts before we can leave this place. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. This seemed to be the most feasible method. If that's the case, we can only rely on ourselves to get out. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest looked at each other and stopped hesitating. Since they could only rely on themselves, there was no point in talking about anything else. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes and recalled everything that had happened in the ruin. Immediately after, the bewitching voice rang in her mind again, swaying her heart. Come. All the precious treasures you want are here. I can give you everything you want. Stop struggling as long as you come with me. However, no matter how bewitching this voice was, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was extremely firm. No matter how many treasures you have, I won't be moved. Everything I want, I will obtain through my own efforts. I don't need your help. None of this is attractive to me. You can keep your treasures for yourself. A bright light flashed in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang stood up without hesitation and walked towards the door. Just as Nangong Yuqing and the others were thinking about how to break this layer of restriction, they saw Bailey Hongzhuang directly approaching the restriction. Seeing this, Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but roll his eyes. Does she want to go out directly? With the restriction here, how can she go out? Just as he was about to laugh at Bailey Hongzhuang for bumping into the restriction, he found that Bailey Hongzhuang had actually passed through the restriction and walked out of the ruin. Chapter 49-22. Damn! How did she get out? Nangong Yuqing stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang as she walked out of the monument and bathed in the sun. Only then did he react. In the next moment, he walked out of the ruins without hesitation. However, the restriction was still there, preventing him from moving forward. It wasn't just Nangong Yuqing. The other cultivators had the same reaction. However, when they found that they still couldn't get out, they were completely dumbfounded. Why can she get out but we can't? Nangong Yuqing frowned. This was too strange. However, as soon as Bailey Hongzhuang walked out, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue also walked out. Seeing their actions, Nangong Yuqing stood to the side and watched quietly. He didn't believe that the two of them would be able to get out. However, reality was cruel. This was because Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue also walked out without any hindrance. How could this be? Nangong Yuqing's eyes widened as he stretched out his hand. The restriction was clearly there. The restriction is clearly here, so why didn't it stop them? Xiao Sudong also had a suspicious look on his face. This was a little too strange. They must have found a way out, Jun Chenbin said. For a moment, everyone's envious eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Their biggest wish was to leave this terrifying and strange ruin. As long as they could leave, it meant that they would be safe. Even if they stayed here for a second longer, they would be in danger for a second longer. How did you get out? Everyone hurriedly asked. This was their only hope. Once Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left, it wouldn't be easy for them to get out. Standing under the sun again, the warm feeling dispelled the cold from staying in the monument, and Bailey Hongzhuang's lips finally burst into a smile. It seems that our previous judgment was right. This is the only way to get out of the ruins. A smile appeared in Di Beichen's eyes. No matter what, we're finally out. Mo Yunjue's face also revealed a relaxed expression. It had to be said that when he was inside, his mood was indeed extremely depressed. It was only after he came out that he felt much better. Then the three of them turned around and prepared to remind everyone how to get out. However, as soon as they turned around, they realized that the door in their line of sight had actually closed, and they could no longer see any other cultivators. What's going on? A trace of astonishment appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate face. She looked at the closed door doubtfully. When she came out, it clearly wasn't like this. It's probably because the owner of this ruin doesn't want us to warn others, so he did it on purpose. Mo Yunjue's eyes darkened. The original intention of the owner of this ruin was to keep all of us there. Our departure must have made him very unhappy. If we can't warn everyone, will they know the way out? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but worry. Although they had previously reminded everyone of this idea, they didn't know if everyone could understand it. If they couldn't, Then they would be trapped in there forever with no way out. Chapter 49:23. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang pondered for a moment before nodding her head. Only then did the worry on her face dissipate somewhat. Indeed, everyone had been shocked by what had happened earlier. That was why they were unable to recover from their shock for the time being. Once they thought about it carefully, they would be able to understand everything and find a way to solve this problem. Nangong Yuqing and the others were standing inside, calling out to Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. However, they found that the three of them did not respond at all. At first, they were extremely angry, but when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang looking inside and not seeing them at all, they suddenly understood. Are they unable to see us? Judging from Bailey Hongzhuang's reaction, that seems to be the case. Could it be that we can no longer warn the people inside after we leave? What should we do? Everyone panicked. Everyone wanted to leave this place as soon as possible, but they had no idea how to do so. Right at this moment, Chun Feng suddenly stood up. Looking at everyone who was as anxious as ants on a hot pan, he said, "What's the point of you being anxious here? As long as you can get rid of your inner demons, you will be able to leave." The next moment, Chun Feng stepped out of the door as well. Unsurprisingly, Chun Feng walked out of the ruin without any hindrance. Seeing Chun Feng following closely behind them, the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two lit up. Although their previous understanding of Chun Feng had been based on hearsay, from what they had seen so far, Chun Feng was indeed an outstanding individual. Do they know how to get out? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. I did warn them. As for whether they can get rid of their inner demons, that will depend on themselves, Chun Feng said with an indifferent expression. Chun Feng had an indifferent expression as his lips curled up into a smile. I owe you a favor for what happened this time. In the future, if you need my help, feel free to ask. You don't have to be so concerned. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She had only warned Chun Feng. If Chun Feng had not realized the problem himself, he would not have walked out just because of her warning. Hearing this, Chun Feng waved his hand. Perhaps this is nothing to you. However, for me, your reminder saved my life. Bailey Hongzhuang did not say anything else when she saw that Chun Feng had already confirmed everything. Obviously, the other party had his own insistence, so it was meaningless for her to say anything more. Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue's gazes landed on Chun Feng. One had to admit that Chun Feng's persistence had caused them to have an even higher opinion of him. When the cultivators in the Land of Legacy saw that Chun Feng had left as well, their hearts calmed down. They remembered what Chun Feng had said before leaving. If they wanted to leave this place, they had to get rid of their inner demons. Clearly, the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were able to leave was because they had broken through the demonic barrier. Di Xiaofeng and the others had heard the conversation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, so they naturally understood the solution. However, knowing was one thing and being able to break through the inner demons was another. The only thing they could do was to stay firm in their beliefs and not be bewitched by that voice. Once they were bewitched, death would be waiting for them. Fortunately, most of the cultivators were also people with firm wills. Moreover, after experiencing what had happened previously, they understood that this so-called bewitching voice was a demon-like existence. Chapter 49:24. After Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 left the ruins, they stood outside and waited. It was not easy for them to reunite with their family's cultivators here. Naturally, they could not leave everyone behind and act separately. Even though Chun Feng was a loner, he had no intention of leaving this place. As the eldest senior brother of the Great Devil sect, he naturally had the responsibility to take care of the other disciples. For a time, the 4 of them sat at the door and rested, waiting for the other cultivators to come out. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes and cultivated. Although the situation in the ruins was extremely strange, it seemed that there were many gains after entering, but in the end, everything was given up. However, cultivating the power of the light attribute here was undoubtedly very helpful. Not long after, the figures of Di Xiaofeng and the others also appeared outside the ruins. Big brother, you're out? Di Beichen's eyes were filled with a faint smile, and his expression was somewhat relaxed. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. You have already told us the method to come out. If we still can't come out, what will happen? Although the others will spend more effort, I think they will all come out later. Don't worry. Lin Taxing also spoke out. If it was during normal times, it would be very difficult to break through this demonic barrier by relying on our own strength. However, after experiencing the current situation, everyone's resistance has increased. Judging from the performance of this ruin, the owner of this ruin should be of the light attribute. I didn't expect him to do such a thing. It's really lamentable. Di Xiaofeng sighed. If he had not personally experienced it, he would have found it hard to believe such a thing. In the past, I don't know how many cultivators have fallen here. Just thinking about the terrifying number makes my hair stand on end. Attribute does not represent human nature. Even if the owner of the ruin is of the light attribute, it does not mean that he is a righteous person. Bailey Hongshuang's expression was indifferent. She looked at this kind of thing very lightly. Just like how she and Beichen were both dark attribute cultivators, they did not think that this attribute represented darkness. Lin Taxing nodded slightly. After this incident, we all understand. I think that this ruin should really be experienced by the people of the Holy Light Assembly. Presumably, their thoughts will change a lot. Actually, I think so too. Lin Qianqian frowned. Although the light attribute is indeed a very powerful attribute, it's still too high and mighty. Any cultivator who wasn't of the light attribute would have some complaints about this. However, even if they had objections, it was useless. I think this situation will change in the future. Bailey Hongshuang's eyes were filled with determination. She believed that the darkness attribute would be accepted by everyone once again. Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongshuang. They looked at each other and smiled. This was their common goal. White Lion also came out very quickly. As a contracted beast, it would not be too seriously bewitched. Moreover, as a beast king, its will was naturally extremely firm. After 3 days of waiting, all the practitioners of the Di family and the Lin family finally gathered together. Since everyone is out, let's set off. A smile appeared on Di Xiaofeng's face again. This place is so strange. I think no one wants to stay here any longer. As soon as he said this, everyone nodded in agreement. Chapter 49-25. Daiheoan looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongshuang in amazement. Beichen, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. If it weren't for you this time, I'm afraid we really wouldn't have survived. The cultivators of the two families also nodded and looked at Bailey Hongshuang with eyes full of admiration and gratitude. Young master, you are really too powerful. Everyone sighed. The doubts they had about Di Beichen and Lin Mengya had long disappeared. This moment they were really convinced. Since Di Beichen came back, although the family head didn't say it openly, they had already regarded Di Beichen as the young master. After all, Di Xiaofeng was going to inherit the Lin family. This had been confirmed in the early years. Even in these years, because Di Beichen hadn't appeared, everyone just thought that they would find another young master from the other children. Now they obviously didn't have to worry about this matter. Di Beichen was also very calm about the way everyone addressed him. He had already accepted this matter. All of this is thanks to Hongshuang. Di Beichen chuckled. If Hongshuang hadn't reminded me, I'm afraid I would have been bewitched. Young madam is really powerful. Yes, young madam was the first person to find out that there was a problem. Young master, young madam, no matter what you say in the future, I won't doubt it anymore. You guys are simply too amazing. I'll just follow your instructions. Previously, when Bailey Hongshuang and Di Beichen asked the other children to leave, many people were unwilling to give up. Now that they thought about it, everyone realized the gap between the two sides. As the voice of this cultivator fell, the other cultivators also expressed their opinions. In the future, we will definitely follow young master and young madam's lead. Seeing everyone's reaction, Bailey Hongshuang and Di Beichen also laughed. They didn't expect that after this incident, their rallying power would increase by a lot. However, this was obviously a good thing for them. Why do you think the owner of the ruins wants so many treasures? Di Xiaofeng furrowed his brows. He couldn't figure it out. Furthermore, did he build this relic just to take the lives of other cultivators? If that's really the case, then he's too vicious. Lin Taxing and the others were also puzzled. This was really puzzling. At the very least, none of the ruins they knew about before were like this. Even if there were risks in entering the ruins, it was a test set by the owner of the ruins to select a suitable successor. Unlike this ruin, it was purely for the sake of taking lives. The owner of this ruin might be a ghost cultivator. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered and said. As the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang fell, everyone present was stunned, and a trace of shock flashed in their eyes. Ghost cultivator? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. A ghost cultivator is actually a cultivator whose soul hasn't dissipated after their death. This situation is somewhat similar to the soul that was attached to Jun Lingxuan's body. However, ghost cultivators are usually people with deep resentment. They are ruthless and have sinister means. If they can't find a suitable place to attach themselves to and other opportunities to strengthen their soul power, then they are very likely to become ghost cultivators. Chapter 49-26. In the beginning, Bailey Hongzhuang did not think of this possibility, because to become a ghost cultivator, one needed a certain amount of opportunity. However, when she recalled everything that had happened, she suddenly thought of this possibility. Based on the current situation, this was clearly the most likely possibility. If that's the case, isn't the soul of the heretic cultivator that had attached itself to Jun Lingxuan's body extremely similar to this ghost cultivator? Di Beichen could not help but ask. That heretic cultivator's cultivation method was obviously extremely vicious. He used the blood essence of others to increase his own strength. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. However, if that heretic cultivator wants to become a ghost cultivator, he needs to find a suitable place for him to cultivate. Otherwise, without a suitable environment, his soul will gradually perish. Usually, ghost cultivators stay in places that are more gloomy and dark. However, this ghost cultivator's place is luxurious and majestic. It's completely different from the usual situation. Thinking about it, he should have a pretty good opportunity. It was precisely because this environment was completely different from the usual ghost cultivators that she did not think about this previously. I see. Originally, everyone didn't understand the reason, but after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation, they suddenly understood. However, once they understood, they sighed even more deeply in their hearts. Hongzhuang, you're too amazing. You even know about this kind of thing? Lin Qianqian looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. I don't think you're from the lower realm. Instead, you seem to be from a higher realm than us. The things you know are not any less than us. In fact, you know more. Young madam is really experienced and knowledgeable. Di Xiaofeng's eyes shone brightly. Sister-in-law is not an ordinary person. How can ordinary cultivators be as talented as her? That's true. Where should we continue to head now? Dai Heiwen's voice slowly rang out. It's also our first time in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. We don't know which direction we should head in to reap more rewards. I think we should just take one step at a time. Anyway, this place was just a coincidence. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with thoughts. Ao Lingxiao's current situation is very dangerous. We should think of a way to find him as soon as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with worry. That's right. We should find Ao Lingxiao as soon as possible. We haven't met any cultivators from the Ao clan. Who knows, they might have gone to look for him. The other cultivators didn't have any objections to this. They just sped up and looked for Ao Lingxiao's figure on the way. There seems to be an abyss in front of them. Suddenly, a surprised voice sounded, attracting the attention of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Hearing this voice, everyone's the voice of the Immortal Cloud secret. Sure enough, a huge gully that penetrated the ground appeared not far ahead. It split the entire ground into two and exuded an endless aura of danger. Hongzhuang Ao of the world of the immortal of the great of us. Bailey Hongzhuang's black eyes were filled with astonishment. Based on the surrounding situation, she could determine how long the abyss had existed. However, after seeing the abyss, Di Xiaofeng and the rest's eyes lit up. Chapter 49-27. Have you heard of this abyss? Di Baichen raised his eyebrows and his eyes lit up before dimming again. Lin Taxing nodded. I've heard of the existence of this abyss. I've heard that this abyss has existed for many years, and the elemental energy inside is extremely rich. It's very suitable for cultivators to cultivate. Furthermore, perhaps there'll be treasures inside. That's right. I've been hoping to find this abyss before entering the immortal cloud secret realm. I didn't expect to find it. Lin Chanqian's face lit up with joy. She quickened her pace and quickly approached the abyss. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were not slow either. They quickly approached the abyss. When they got closer, they saw that the abyss was pitch black. They could not even see their own fingers and could not see the situation inside. A gust of wind swept up from the abyss, bringing with it an eerie chill. It was mysterious and dangerous. Shall we go down and take a look? Di Xiaofeng asked tentatively. The other cultivators nodded their heads in agreement when they heard that. They had all heard of the existence of this abyss. Since they were already here, how could they not go in? Seeing that everyone was in agreement, they no longer hesitated and immediately walked into the abyss. This was a huge gully, and everyone could only use climbing methods to slowly descend. Elemental energy adhered to their hands and feet, increasing the friction on their hands and feet, so that they could hold onto the stone wall and slowly descend. It was pitch black. Coupled with the gust of wind that constantly swept over, it was useless even if they lit a fire. Bailey Hongzhuang condensed her elemental energy in her hands, and the light attribute was instantly unleashed. The elemental energy in her hands bloomed with a gentle and bright light. It was like a luminous pearl, illuminating the surrounding environment. As the light lit up, everyone could see their surroundings clearly. I didn't expect that the deeper we go, the wider the gully becomes. Di Xiaofeng was surprised. He had thought that the gully would become narrower the deeper they went, so he was a little worried. However, based on the current situation, there would be a very wide path below. This reduced his worries by a lot. It seems that the news we heard before was not wrong. There may be treasures in this gully. The corners of Lin Chanqian's lips curled up into a smile. Then a trace of sadness appeared in her eyes. Previously, Yi had always hoped that she would be able to find the existence of this abyss after entering the immortal cloud secret realm. However, until now I still haven't been able to find Yi. I wonder how she is now. She and Yi had grown up together and were blood-related sisters, so their relationship was naturally very good. She had hoped to meet up with Yi as soon as she entered, but now that so many of them had gathered together and she had not seen Yi, she was a little worried. Hearing this, everyone's heart sank. Don't worry, Yi is so smart. Nothing will happen to her. Lin Taxing comforted. Maybe Yi is gathering with other disciples. After all, we haven't been here for long and there are many people scattered in other places. Lin Chanqian nodded slightly. I hope so. As everyone went deeper in, Bailey Hongzhuang could clearly feel that the surrounding essence energy was getting denser. Staying in this environment, even if one did not cultivate, there would be endless origin energy entering one's body to strengthen one's body. Chapter 49-28. Speaking of this abyss, I think of the Bitter Sea Abyss. Mo Yunjue's black eyes flashed with a hint of contemplation. When they were in the lower realm, they had been to the Bloodland Abyss and the Demonic Abyss, but there was no news about the Bitter Sea Abyss. Thinking back, he had heard from the senior that no one knew where the Bitter Sea Abyss was. Now that they knew there was an upper realm, perhaps the Bitter Sea Abyss was here. In this way, everything could be explained. Hearing Mo Yunjue's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen's eyes lit up. The Bitter Sea Abyss was also a place they wanted to go. Big brother, do you know where the Bitter Sea Abyss is? Di Baichen asked. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. I have heard of the Bitter Sea Abyss, but no one knows where it is. That's right. From the ancient books we know that the Bitter Sea Abyss is a treasure land, but as far as I know, no one knows where it is. Maybe it doesn't exist at all. Lin Taxing raised his eyebrows. There was a hint of helplessness between his brows, and a trace of curiosity flashed in his eyes. I heard that the Bloodland Abyss and the Demonic Abyss are both in the lower realm. Have you been there? Yes, I heard that the Bloodland Abyss and the Demonic Abyss are very beneficial to cultivators. Once you succeed, you will gain an aura field and improve your combat strength. Lin Qianqian's face was filled with excitement, and then she helplessly drooped her head. It's a pity that we can't go. We only know about it from the ancient books. It's really depressing. We've all been there. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, but there was doubt in her eyes. Why can't you go? Whether it was the Bloodland Abyss or the Demonic Abyss, they were excellent places for cultivators to gain experience. Logically speaking, these two places should be more suitable for cultivators from the upper realm. If these two places were in the upper realm, the number of successful cultivators would increase by a lot. In fact, cultivators from the upper realm would also go in the beginning, but you also know the difference in strength between the upper realm and the lower realm. Moreover, most of the genius cultivators were young and full of vigor. After going to the lower realms, they would become overlords, suppressing the development of the cultivators in the lower realms. Not only that, but it also caused quite a bit of trouble back then. In the end, all the major forces decided to manage the passage between the two places. Ordinary cultivators are not allowed to enter the lower realm at all. Naturally, we don't have the chance to go. Lin Qianqian's pretty face was full of distress and unwillingness. If there's a chance, I really want to see the two abysses. Unfortunately, I've already missed the time to break through. I'm destined to never have the chance in this lifetime. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally understood. But wouldn't that be unfair to you? That can't be helped. Daiheoan chuckled. Although losing the two abysses will cause a certain loss to the upper realm, if the people from the upper realm go to the lower realm will suffer an even greater loss. Comparing the two, this method was naturally more suitable. After all, the cultivators of the lower realms also need space to develop. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. She had a deep understanding of this point. Just like how the cultivators of Penglai Island would not easily go to the outside world, it was also because of this point. Chapter 49-29. By the way, Hongzhuang, since you've gone to the Two Abyss, can you tell me about the situation inside? Is it really the same as described in the ancient books? Lin Qianqian's eyes were filled with excitement and curiosity. Although there were many things in the upper realm that the lower realm could not compare to, they could not compare to the lower realm in this aspect. Bailey Hongzhuang roughly explained the situation in the Two Abyss. Daiheoan and the other disciples of the two families also pricked up their ears and listened attentively. They were also filled with curiosity about this point. So it's really like this. After so many years, it hasn't changed much from what was recorded in the ancient books. Daiheoan said with a smile. Then have you seen the cultivators who obtained the inheritance? Lin Taxing was also interested. I heard that the inheritances of the Two Abyss are very impressive. I have. Di Baichen's lips curved into a playful smile. Really? Di Xiaofeng was surprised. Are their combat strength powerful? It's all right. You speak so casually. I heard that these two inheritances are very impressive. They are inheritances that even the disciples of the aristocratic families are envious of. Di Xiaofeng glanced at Di Baichen. Are you kidding me? Seeing Di Xiaofeng roll his eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but chuckle. Di Baichen was simply teasing Di Xiaofeng. Hongzhuang, what are you laughing at? Di Xiaofeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion. Why do I see your expression so strange? Far away on the horizon but close in front of you, Di Baichen said quietly. Di Xiaofeng was slightly taken aback. Before he could understand what this meant, Lin Taxing suddenly widened his eyes. Could it be that one of you obtained the inheritance? Following Lin Taxing's words, Di Xiaofeng and the others all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Is this true? I only obtained the inheritance of the demonic abyss, Mo Yunjue said slowly. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng and the others all looked at Mo Yunjue in shock and curiosity. I heard that it's not easy to obtain the inheritance. Yunjue, show us the murderous aura field next time. I knew that Yunjue is also a first-rate genius. Looking at everyone's excited eyes, a trace of helplessness appeared in Mo Yunjue's cold eyes. He continued, they are the ones who obtained the two inheritances. The reason he said that he obtained the inheritance of the murderous aura field. Originally, when everyone knew that Mo Yunjue had obtained the murderous aura inheritance, they were already very surprised. According to their understanding, it was not an easy task to obtain this inheritance. Even they may not have the confidence to succeed. Mo Yunjue could succeed, which meant that he was a genius cultivator with unlimited potential. However, when they heard Mo Yunjue say that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang obtained the two inheritances, their eyes widened and their faces were filled with disbelief. No way! The three of you all passed? Di Xiaofeng said in astonishment. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Since they returned to the Di family, they had not fought with anyone. It was not strange that Di Xiaofeng and the others did not know. That's right. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Chapter 49-30. It seems that we may have misunderstood the inheritance of the two abysses. Di Xiaofeng pondered. Hearing this, Lin Qianqian looked puzzled. What misunderstanding? This inheritance must be very easy to obtain. Look, even Beichen obtained it. It must be very simple. Di Xiaofeng spread out his hands, looking as if that was how it should be. Ahem. Di Beichen coughed softly, his handsome face full of helplessness. Everyone could not help but laugh when they saw this. They naturally understood that Di Xiaofeng was just deliberately teasing Di Beichen. In that case, the upper realm does not have the bitter sea abyss? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. I always feel that since there is such a saying, the bitter sea abyss should exist. She believed that the ancient books would not casually record it. Since such a saying had been circulating for a long time, it proved that it did exist. However, this saying also revealed one thing. The existence of the bitter sea abyss was very secretive, and almost no one knew of its existence. According to her thoughts, those cultivators who had reached the bitter sea abyss were just lucky enough to encounter it. The journey must be very difficult to remember, or it might change from time to time. It was precisely because of this that the bitter sea abyss was in existence that everyone could not find. She had already been to two of the three abysses and obtained the inheritance. If possible, she also hoped to find the bitter sea abyss. Actually, I also think it should exist, but so many years have passed and no one knows where it is. Lin Taxing's handsome face was full of contemplation. According to this saying, the existence of the bitter sea abyss should be extremely secretive. Since this abyss is called the bitter sea abyss, could it be in the sea? Lin Qianqian was obviously very interested in this unknown matter. Is there a sea area called the bitter sea? Everyone looked at each other. Obviously, no one had heard of the existence of the bitter sea. I hope there will be a chance to find it in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. No one could say for sure what would happen in life. Since this place existed, perhaps they would see it in the future. Soon, everyone arrived at the bottom of the abyss. Standing on the ground, everyone quickly found a passage in front of them. The ground is very flat and not full of potholes. This is really amazing. Yeah, I thought that the environment at the bottom of the abyss would be terrible, but it seems to be pretty good. The cultivators from the Lin family and the Di family were all overjoyed as they chatted with each other. The two families had been friends for generations, so they were basically very familiar with each other. They were like a family, and there was no sense of unfamiliarity or distance between them. Listen, there seems to be the sound of flowing water in front of us, Lin Qianqian suddenly said. Everyone quieted down and listened carefully to the voice coming from the front. A trace of surprise appeared in their eyes. Really? There really is the sound of flowing water. This is the bottom of the abyss, yet there is still the sound of flowing water. How miraculous! Let's go and take a look. After discovering that there was no danger in the surroundings, everyone's courage increased. They only wanted to explore this place that they had been curious about for a long time. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and immediately quickened their pace, quickly moving forward. Hearing Emperor Xiaofeng's words, everyone who was immersed in shock came back to their senses and immediately rushed up. If they didn't collect such treasures, they would really deserve to die. As long as they were refined into pills, the effect would as bye. After everyone had finished harvesting, they continued to move forward, but this time there's bye a. Chapter 49-32. Hearing Lin Qianqian's words, Di Xiaofeng and the others were all smiles. I'm afraid there aren't many forces that can compare with us. Lin Taxing smiled. We're just lucky. The heavens are still on our side. Haha. Di Xiaofeng smiled handsomely. If I had known, I wouldn't have wasted my time in the ruins. Hongzhuang, your alchemy skills are so amazing. When the time comes, I'll give these divine spiritual herbs to you. You'll be able to bring out the best effects after refining them into pills. Lin Qianqian smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang. After the trip to the ruins, her relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang had quickly become closer. She now regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as a good sister, and did not have any scruples when speaking to her. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Okay. Immortal spiritual herbs were very precious. She also knew the pill formula for refining immortal spiritual herbs. However, the level of this pill was very high and she still needed to make some progress. Look, it seems like someone used to live here, Daiheoan slowly said after examining the environment in front of them. Only then did everyone realize that the abyss was like a cave and there were several paths in front. Most importantly, they saw the existence of a stone room. As expected, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. I didn't expect there to be such a setup in the abyss. How shocking. Who do you think would live here? Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. Didn't they say that it's impossible to leave after staying in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm for more than a year? Then who would choose to live here? Could it be that someone has been staying in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm all this time? That's not impossible. Di Beichen pondered. Actually, there's plenty of elemental energy here. It's very suitable for cultivators to live here. Mo Yunjue also spoke up. Let's go ahead and take a look. Lin Taxing's eyes sparkled with curiosity and his expression turned serious. We have to be careful. If the person who lives here is still here, then we'll be plucking their immortal spirit grass. I hope we won't anger them. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expression turned grave. Indeed, with such a huge patch of immortal herbs, it was very strange that no one was plucking them. If that's the case, wouldn't we be in trouble? Lin Qianqian asked. Why don't we leave now? After all, they had already gained a lot. Even if they left now, there was nothing to regret. Hearing this, hesitation appeared in everyone's eyes. How about we just leave like this? Emperor Xiaofeng couldn't help but ask. He was very clear about the importance of these immortal herbs to the clan. As long as he could bring these immortal spirit herbs back, it would only be a matter of time before the disciples of the clan would have their aptitudes raised and surpass the cultivators of the other clans. Everything in front of them was still unclear. If they were to lose their lives here, that would be the worst thing that could happen. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. This method was very reliable and wasn't a bad decision. However, just as everyone was hesitating whether to leave or not, they suddenly heard a familiar voice from inside. Ao Zhengquang, you shameless villain. Chapter 49-33. Listen, that seems to be Yi's voice. Lin Qianqian's expression froze. Then an anxious look appeared. Yes, it seems to be Yi's voice. Why is Yi here? I seem to hear her scolding Ao Zhengquang. Lin Taxing's face also showed a worried expression. Yi was his cousin. The relationship between the two was also very close. After hearing Yi's voice, Di Xiaofeng's expression was also a little nervous. Although he couldn't respond to Yi's feelings for him, in his heart, Yi had always been his most concerned cousin. If something happened to Yi, he would definitely be extremely anxious. Let's go and take a look. The original worry about the owner of this place was thrown away by everyone in an instant. Thinking that Lin Yi might be in danger inside, everyone rushed in immediately. Everyone couldn't help praying in their hearts, only hoping that Lin Yi would be fine. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also exerted their speed to the extreme and rushed over immediately. When they arrived, they found that Lin Yi's clothes were stained with blood. Beside her, Ao Lingxiao was seriously injured and fell to the ground. His clothes were completely dyed red with blood. Lingxiao. A worried voice sounded, and Bailey Hongzhuang and the others quickly came to the two people's side. How are you? Are you okay? After Lin Yi saw Bailey Hongzhuang and others appear, a trace of blood appeared on her pale face. Lin Qianqian took Lin Yi's hands and supported her to prevent her from falling. Yi, what's going on? Lin Qianqian's eyes were full of worry and anger. Who hurt you like this? Ao Zhengquang. Lin Yi saw Lin Qianqian as if she saw her backbone. Ao Zhengquang, Jun Lingxuan, they are all here. Lin Qianqian quickly took out the medicinal pill and fed it to Lin Yi. Then asked, where are they now? They heard you coming just now, so they quickly escaped. You go and chase them. They are just ahead. After hearing Lin Yi's words, Emperor Xiaofeng and Lin Taxing nodded and immediately led other cultivators to chase forward. This damn Jun Lingxuan, I will not let him escape this time. The Jun family has done so many outrageous things to us over the years. This time we'll kill Jun Lingxuan first as interest. That Ao Zhengquang is also not a good person. He actually killed his father and mother in order to become the head of the family. After relying on the Jun family, he completely betrayed us. This time, I'll kill him as well to save myself the trouble. Regardless of whether it was the Lin clan or the Di clan, the cultivators were already filled with rage over this matter. Before they entered the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, they had already wanted to kill these few fellows to vent their anger. Now that these fellows had gathered together, they naturally wouldn't let them go. What's more, these damn guys actually seriously injured Lin Yi and Ao Lingxiao. This was something that they couldn't forgive. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the seriously injured Ao Lingxiao, and her face became extremely ugly. In her sight, Ao Lingxiao's chest was directly cut open, revealing a large piece of flesh. Even the internal organs were faintly visible. Blood was left all over the ground. How tragic it looked. After seeing this situation, Di Beichen's heart was filled with shock. Chapter 49-34. How did Ling Xiao get hurt so badly? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was extremely ugly. With such injuries, if they came a step later, he would have died. It's all because of Ao Zhengquang. Lin Yi's pretty face was full of anger. He is simply a bastard. He only wants to kill Ao Lingxiao. Not only that, but he also humiliated Ao Lingxiao. He is really hateful. Listening to Lin Yi's words, although Bailey Hongzhuang and others did not see the scene with their own eyes, they understood in their hearts that Ao Zhengquang must have been pressuring Ling Xiao. That guy even killed his parents. It's not surprising that he did such a thing. Lin Qianqian snorted coldly. Her clear eyes were full of disgust. Second cousin-in-law, look at Ao Lingxiao's situation. Can he be saved? Lin Yi's small face was pale. Her clear black and white eyes were full of worry and tension. She didn't want anything to happen to Ao Lingxiao. Bailey Hongzhuang squatted down and carefully checked Ao Lingxiao's situation. After that, she quickly fed the elixir into his mouth. Lingxiao, how are you? Bailey Hongzhuang tried to call out. Ao Lingxiao's eyes were a little unfocused at this moment. He was close to a coma. Hongzhuang. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's voice, Ao Lingxiao forced himself to open his eyes. His gaze focused again, but his face was pale and bloodless. Even his words were barely audible. Seeing that Ao Lingxiao could still answer her, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She comforted in a gentle voice, "Don't worry. You will be fine. I will definitely cure you. Everyone will definitely catch Ao Zhengquang." Ao Lingxiao forced the corner of his mouth to open. He spat out 2 words with difficulty, thank you. As soon as his voice fell, he couldn't bear it anymore and fell into a coma. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but show a hint of nervousness on their faces. He is in a coma. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. It's okay. His injury is really serious. I'm afraid he needs to recuperate here for a while, but his life will not be in danger. This injury looked extremely frightening, but as a doctor, she knew that it wasn't to the point of being incurable. Hearing this, everyone was relieved. Speaking of which, if Ao Zhengquang hadn't wasted time humiliating Ao Lingxiao, I'm afraid now. Lin Yi's voice paused, and everyone immediately understood. Regarding this point, they really didn't know whether to say it was good or bad. Needless to say, one could roughly guess how Ao Zhengquang had humiliated Ao Lingxiao. He must have been in a lot of pain before. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang did not delay, and immediately began to treat Ao Lingxiao. If the bleeding was not stopped in time, it would be very troublesome. I think this Ao Zhengquang is really crazy. No matter what, Ao Lingxiao is his younger brother. I didn't expect him to go this far. Lin Qianqian's eyebrows were filled with disgust and regret. That was a blood relationship. As someone who also had a younger sister, she couldn't imagine how someone could do such a thing to a family member. He can't be called a human anymore. He is simply a beast. Mo Yunjua's black eyes were filled with coldness. It was as cold as winter, without the slightest bit of warmth. He had been with Ao Lingxiao for so long. Even though he never said anything on the surface, he had already regarded Ao Lingxiao as a brother in his heart. Chapter 49-35. What was the situation before? Why don't you tell us in detail? Lin Qianqian helped Lin Yi to sit down on the side. After noticing that the latter's condition was fine, she asked. When I passed by here before, I saw this abyss. I remembered the abyss I had heard before, so I came down. After I came in, I saw the immortal spirit grass outside. At that time, I wanted to pick the immortal spirit grass, but I suddenly heard some movement inside, and I heard the name Ao Lingxiao. Out of curiosity, I got closer. As a result, I found that Jun Lingxuan, Xiaoso, Ao Zhengquang, and a group of cultivators of the Ao family were all here. They seemed to have chased Ao Lingxiao all the way here, but there were more of them after Ao Lingxiao went in, so they didn't know where Ao Lingxiao was. I have tried my best to minimize the movement, but I didn't expect to be discovered by them. They wanted to kill me. Lin Yi's face was pale. She seemed to recall the scenes that happened before, but she still had a lingering fear. I'm no match for them alone. Ao Lingxiao only came out to protect me. Mo sighed. If it weren't for me, he wouldn't have suffered such a serious injury. It's all my fault. Lin Yi's eyes were misty. Her sobbing appearance was very distressing. This is something that no one expected. Don't blame yourself. Lin Qianqian comforted. She knew Lin Yi's character very well. Although she was always a bit impudent, she was kind-hearted. This time Ao Zhengquang was implicated. She must be very upset. No. Lin Yi shook her head. It's all my fault. If I wasn't discovered by them, Ao Lingxiao would be able to leave. The next moment, Lin Yi raised her head and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Second cousin-in-law, you must cure him. I will take good care of him. In the future, I will also take part in his revenge. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly taken aback. She immediately raised a faint smile and nodded, okay. Lin Qianqian also nodded. When I first learned that he was Ao Lingxiao, I still had some doubts in my heart. However, from this incident it was clear that he was a good person. If he could really kill his parents, he wouldn't have stood out to save you in such a dangerous situation. No one was stupid. In such a dangerous situation, Ao Lingxiao couldn't have been acting. This action was enough to prove his character. If he is your benefactor, then he is our benefactor. This Ao Zhengquang is so hateful, we must kill him to vent our hatred. Big sister, thank you. Seeing Lin Qianqian so supportive of her idea, Linny also showed a smile on her face. On the other side, Ao Zhengquang retreated with Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou, but there was a puzzled look on his face. Young Master Jun, why do we have to leave? Even if it's a head-on battle, we won't be afraid of them. Moreover, there are so many immortal herbs outside. It would be a pity if we just gave up like this. Ao Zhengquang's face was filled with unwillingness. His heart trembled when he thought of the large amount of immortal spirit grass. Chapter 49-36. Listening to Ao Zhengquang's words, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou looked a little helpless. In fact, since the last time they fought with Bailey Hongzhuang, they had a shadow in their hearts. Just Bailey Hongzhuang could make them so embarrassed. Coupled with Di Beichen and others, they knew what the situation would be like without thinking. Therefore, when they knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and others were approaching, their first thought was to leave quickly. Only in this way it was the safest. However, in the face of Ao Zhengquang's inquiry, they obviously couldn't say their inner thoughts directly. They could only find other reasons. From their footsteps we can judge that the number of people exceeds us. Di Xiaofeng and others are there. It is disadvantageous for us to fight head-on. Jun Lingxuan's face was calm. His eyebrows were full of seriousness. Hearing this, Ao Zhengquang understood and nodded. So that's the case. But it's a pity for us to leave like this. Those immortal spirit grasses are of great help to us. Moreover, Ao Lingxiao doesn't seem to be dead yet. Ao Zhengquang's eyes were full of depression. He was so close to killing Ao Lingxiao directly. However, it was just for a moment that he didn't succeed. He was looking forward to killing Ao Lingxiao every day. In this way, the truth would be buried forever, and there would never be a day when it would be revealed. Jun Lingxuan glanced at Ao Zhengquang. His handsome face was displeased. I asked you to solve it cleanly before, but you wasted time. If you didn't waste time humiliating him, not only Ao Lingxiao, but Lin Yi would be dead now. Speaking of this, Jun Lingxuan's eyes also showed a trace of ruthlessness. Jun Shitao died in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and others. He had already made an oath to avenge Jun Shitao. If they killed Lin Yi, at least they could get some interest. Now, although the two were seriously injured, they could recover again after a while. How could he vent the resentment in his heart? After being reprimanded by Jun Lingxuan, Ao Zhengquang suddenly drooped his head and didn't dare to say anything more. Don't worry now. Although this immortal spirit grasses fell into their hands, we are still in the immortal cloud secret realm. We still have many opportunities to snatch this immortal spirit grasses back. Xiao Sou's voice was gentle. Her delicate little face had a soft smile. The most important thing now is to meet up with our family's cultivators. Once we meet up, we don't have to be afraid of them. Jun Lingxuan nodded slightly. In my opinion, we should be able to meet our family's cultivators soon. Of Jun Lingxuan. Regarding this, they also felt extremely helpless. After using the escape talisman previously, they appeared in a random place. Although they didn't know where it was, they knew that it was far away. After that, they kept approaching the center. But they didn't meet the Jun family and Xiao family's cultivators for a long time. Fortunately, they met Ao Zhengquang and others when they approached the abyss. It happened that Ao Zhengquang and others were chasing Ao Lingxiao, so they joined in. However, they didn't expect things to be so coincidental. Bailey Hongzhuang and others also appeared here, complicating the situation. Quick! They should be in front. Chapter 49-37. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with disgust and hatred. The grudge between him and Jun Lingxuan had been going on for a long time. For so many years, both sides had always disliked each other. They just wanted to find an opportunity to get rid of each other. Unfortunately, there had never been a good opportunity. This time, Jun Lingxuan dared to seriously injure Linny. He must kill this guy. The cultivators of the Di family and the Lin family were also angry. It had become normal for the two sides to be at each other's throats. But this time Yi Shiwen injured their people. He must pay the price. Jun Lingxuan and others were talking, thinking about how to find an opportunity to get the immortal spirit grass back. Suddenly they heard the movement from behind. A hint of nervousness appeared on everyone's faces. Damn it! Those guys are catching up. Jun Lingxuan cursed. Oh, Zhengquang's expression was tense and anxious. There are a lot of footsteps. I'm afraid there are more people than us. Let's go. Once they catch up with us, it will be troublesome. Xiao Soa's face also showed a worried expression. Both sides were now in a situation where one of them had to die. Once Di Xiaofeng and others caught up with them, they would definitely leave all of them here. There are a few forks in front. Let's run there and spread out. Don't be caught by them. Jun Lingxuan looked at the intersection ahead and said. Along the way, they had gained a better understanding of the environment. There were many caves here, and many of them were connected to each other. In short, this was a very suitable place for hide and seek. Coupled with the dark environment here, it was not so easy to find a person. It was precisely because of this environment that they couldn't find Ao Lingxiao's figure before. They just didn't expect the situation to change in a short time. As Jun Lingxuan's voice fell, Ao Zhengquang and the others did not dare to delay. Their figures quickly swept out and scuttled into the fork road. When Di Xiaofeng and the others caught up, they saw the fork in the road ahead. He immediately frowned. This environment really isn't suitable for chasing people. Looks like we have to split up. Lin Taking nodded slightly. Then let's go this way. Then I'll go this way. Di Xiaofeng looked at another intersection and said. I'll take the third fork, Dai Haoan said. Soon the crowd split into several groups and chased inside. Xiao So and Jun Lingxuan were walking on the same path. Both of them were rushing inside at their fastest speed. I wonder where this place is. I didn't expect this road to be so long. Xiao So looked at her surroundings with surprise in her eyes. When she first entered this abyss, she was very surprised by the environment below. Now the deeper she went, the more mysterious she felt the situation was. The sound of flowing water ahead is getting clearer and clearer. It might be an underground river, Jun Lingxuan said thoughtfully. Then do we still go there? Xiao So looked worried. If there's no way out, then we'll be caught by Bailey Hongzhuang and others sooner or later. Now she didn't have an escape talisman in her hand. Once they were caught, it would be difficult to escape death. Jun Lingxuan's face was also very ugly. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. This must be the situation now. Chapter 4938. Xiao So originally felt extremely worried, but when she saw Jun Lingxuan's serious side profile, her heart suddenly calmed down a lot. However, Jun Lingxuan, who was thinking of a solution, did not notice the change in Xiao So's expression at all. After Bailey Hongzhuang fed Ao Lingxiao the elixir, his physical body gradually showed signs of healing under the effect of the elixir. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang also used the healing medicine without hesitation. The silver needles also began to treat the internal injuries. The visible injuries were already very terrible, but the internal injuries were more troublesome. Once the internal injuries were left, Ao Lingxiao's future would be affected. Breaking through the barrier of space was something that all cultivators could not bear. Lin Qianqian and others watched Bailey Hongzhuang busily treating Ao Lingxiao. Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue were very familiar with Bailey Hongzhuang's treatment methods, so they were not surprised. However, it was the first time for Lin Qianqian and Lin Yi to see it. Both of them were amazed. Hongzhuang's medical skills are really not weaker than alchemy. I didn't expect her to be so powerful. Lin Qianqian sighed with a smile. When she first learned that Bailey Hongzhuang cured her aunt, she was also very surprised. Now, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's smooth movements, she already understood everything. After waiting for so long, I don't know if they have caught up? Lin Yi's injury was not serious. Because of Ao Lingxiao's appearance, Jun Lingxuan and others focused their attention on Ao Lingxiao, so they did not have much time to pay attention to her. It was precisely because of this that she was only initially injured. After taking the elixir, she had recovered a lot. They should be able to catch up. Di Beichen said slowly. Since there are only 7 of them, my elder brother will definitely be able to catch up with them. After all, the Lin family and the Di family had more than 20 cultivators. Even if they stayed here, the number would completely exceed Jun Lingxuan and others. I hope so. A trace of hatred flashed in Lin Yi's eyes. Jun Lingxuan, Xiao So, and Ao Zhengquang are all cunning people. I only hope that they can be dealt with as soon as possible. Wait patiently. Star and the others will come back after they catch up. You are injured. Star and Xiaofeng want to avenge you. Hearing the name Di Xiaofeng, Lin Yi's eyes flashed dimly. She used to be the happiest when she heard this name Xiaofeng. Although it was just a short period of time, the situation was completely different for her. During this period of time, she had thought about it for a long time. In the end, she decided to completely let go of this matter. Although she couldn't do it in a short time, she believed that she would definitely do it. Noticing the change in Lin Yi's expression, Lin Qianqian felt a little helpless in her heart. It seems that Lin Yi still didn't take it lightly. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were very fast. After she finished bandaging Ao Lingxiao's wound, she stopped. Wife, when will Lingxiao wake up? Di Beichen asked with concern. I'm afraid he will be unconscious for a while. He should wake up at night. The pitch-black watery eyes rippled with warm light. But his injury is serious. It is not suitable for him to move. I am afraid he will have to stay here for a while. Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded slightly. As long as Lingxiao is fine, we will stay here for a while. Chapter 4939. Just as Di Beichen and the rest were waiting for the results, a series of footsteps finally came from inside. They're finally back. Lin Qianqian heaved a sigh of relief. I've been waiting for so long and there's still no news. I couldn't help but worry. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly and her eyes were clear and calm. Now I can rest assured. However, when they saw the situation in front of them, their faces immediately darkened. In their line of sight, Jun Lingxuan was holding Daiheoan hostage. The dagger in his hand was placed horizontally at Daiheowen's neck, and there was blood seeping out faintly. Xiao So and Ao Zhengquang were walking beside him while Di Xiaofeng and the rest were following behind them with ashen faces. Jun Lingxuan, hurry up and release Howen, Di Xiaofeng roared. His eyes were like a cold lake in October, cold and filled with killing intent. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan sneered. As long as you let us leave here, I'll naturally release him. Otherwise, Jun Lingxuan's face became ferocious. Otherwise, we'll perish together with him. You can just wait to collect his corpse. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun couldn't help but look surprised when they saw the situation. Big brother, how did this happen? Di Beichun's obsidian-like eyes were filled with haze. They were less bright and more gloomy. There was a fork in the road ahead, so we split up. We didn't expect to fall into Jun Lingxuan's trap. The people who were traveling with Howen all died in his hands. When we arrived, he was about to kill Howen, but when he saw us appear, he held him hostage. Hearing this, Di Beichun and the rest immediately understood. Master, this Jun Lingxuan is really not easy to deal with. Baisher's eyes were filled with disgust and unwillingness. The last time they met, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao So were already powerless. They didn't expect an escape talisman to save them. This time it was a sure-kill situation, but they didn't expect Daiheowen to fall into their hands. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest again, Jun Lingxuan's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Di Beichun, Bailey Hongzhuang, what did you do to Shi Tao? Jun Lingxuan's eyes were sharp and sinister. He already knew the result in his heart. But if he couldn't confirm it himself, he still wouldn't believe it. Do you think Jun Shi Tao's alive? Under such circumstances, Di Beichun's voice was cold and indifferent. His handsome face was filled with disdain. It's ridiculous to ask such a question now. After receiving this affirmative answer, Jun Lingxuan's eyes turned red with hatred and murderous intent. He gritted his teeth and said, Di Beichun, I'll definitely kill you to comfort Shi Tao's soul in heaven. Then I'm afraid you don't have the ability, Di Beichun said casually. A cold smile appeared on his sharp face. Every time we meet, it's so difficult for you to escape. You want to kill me? In your next life. His cold voice was like a glacier in the extreme north. It pierced Jun Lingxuan's heart and made it bleed. Di Beichun, don't be too arrogant. Xiao So couldn't help but speak up. Anger appeared on her beautiful white face. You were just lucky these 2 times. The next time we meet, you'll definitely be defeated by us. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.